Hey friends, welcome to the Boo and Lu Tamarack Sew Along. I really like this pattern because it's a really versatile one. There's so many options. You can do a hoodie, you can do a long sleeve t-shirt, a short sleeve t-shirt, you can color block the front, color block the back. There's just so many options and I'm really excited to sew this one up. I am going to be using this super cute Bloop Kitty fabric from Zombie Bunny, and it's really adorable. It's really great. I'm using cotton lycra, and it's just so colorful, and my kids are obsessed with it, and I'm obsessed with it. So if you want to find out more about this fabric, go check out my unboxing video. Okay, so you will need a back for your tamarack. You'll need a back and a front. I'm using this panel. The tamarack is great for panels. It's a really great one. And then you'll need a color block front or color block top and a color block bottom. You'll also need 2 sleeves and a neckband or a hood if you're doing a hood. You can also put some binding in the between the color blocks if you want. So if you want that, make sure you have that cut out as well. And you can color block the back. So if you want to color block the back, make sure you have the pieces for that. And it's similar to color blocking the front. But okay, so anytime I do color blocking, what I like to do first is I like to lay my fabric out so that I can make sure everything is in the right space. Because if you don't do a really good job marking your fabric, sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. So I like to lay it out, and here we have, you can see, yep, perfect, everything's in the right spot. Now we're gonna take this bottom color block piece and put it right sides together with that middle color block piece. Just making sure to line up all those raw edges, and then go ahead and pin or clip that. When working with knits, especially if you're newer to knits, you want to make sure you do pin because knits like to sometimes stretch or move on you. So it's really important to pin or clip, especially if you're new. And then now what we're going to do is we are going to sew along this raw edge using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I want to say here I am using my serger, but you totally do not need to use a serger to sew this pattern. If you're using a regular sewing machine, just make sure you're using a zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch. It works just as good. The serger's faster. That's why I love it. Okay, now that our bottom color block piece is sewn on, we need to attach this color block piece. You can go ahead and top stitch that bottom piece if you want to right now, but I like to top stitch everything at once, just so I'm not going back and forth between machines. So again, just like with the bottom piece, we're going to align, put them right sides together and just align those, the raw edges there, and pin or clip to help keep your fabric in place and not wobbling around with you. If you are doing the binding between, you just want to sandwich that between the 2 color block pieces. So don't forget to do that if you're doing the binding. Now we're just going to sew 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that our color block pieces are all put together, I'm going to just top stitch them. I really like the look of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my seam allowance or my seams are pressed up towards the top and the bottom color block pieces so that my middle piece is kind of, they lay on top of my middle color block piece, if that makes sense. And then we're just going to top stitch right along that. Okay, I'm top stitching with my cover stitch. This little piece of fabric I have here, that's called a spider. It helps make sure your stitches are starting right when you start on your actual fabric. I really love that little tip and trick there if you're using a cover stitch machine. If not, if you're just using your regular machine, you can do a twin needle. I hate twin needles. I never can get them to work. Or just do a zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch right there and it'll work just as fine. We're just basically top stitching those seams down. It gives it a nice crisp look. You don't even have to do it. And then because I'm using my cover stitch, I'm going to pull those stitches to the front, snip them, and then pull my fabric to the back. And then we're going to just do it again with the bottom part of the color block. Yeah, I like top stitching a lot of my makes. if two seams are coming together, you generally top stitch it. I just feel like it gives it a little bit more of a professional look, so I like that. But all right, let's move on. So we're all top stitched, and I love the way it looks. It looks really nice and clean and crisp, and those won't come like unfolded or anything. But now we need to put the shirt together basically. And to do that, since it's a raglan, we need to attach the sleeves first. And with raglan sleeves, they can get kind of tricky, especially if you've not sewn them before. The long edge of the raglan goes towards the back and the shorter edge goes to the front. One way to check this is to just fold your fabric in half, lining up the sleeve sides, and you'll see the shorter end. That will tell you, okay, that goes to the front. So take that shorter end, the shorter curve, and just line it up with your front curve, lining up those raw edges. Pin and clip that in place. And then we're going to take it over to our sewing machine. If you're using a regular sewing machine, again, just stick with the lightning stitch or zigzag stitch. And we're just going to use 3/8 inch seam allowance and sew right along those raw edges. Okay, now that we've got one sleeve attached, we are going to go ahead and attach the other sleeve to the front. Again, I just like to do them. You can start attaching the back if you want, but it's just easier for me to keep track of things to do both fronts and then work towards the back. So just like with the other side, the shorter curve that goes towards the front, right sides together, align those curves up, and then just clip them, and then 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now that we have both sleeves attached to our front, we're going to go ahead and attach our back to one of the sleeves. So just pick a side, and we're just going to line up those curves just like we did with the front. This is a great time to kind of check to make sure you put the sleeve on right. If your sleeve curve is too short, then you flipped it and put the back on the front, and you just will have to seam rip and switch it around. But if not, you're perfect, you're good to go. Raglans, yeah, can be a little tricky, especially if you haven't marked the sleeve. But now we just need to go ahead and sew along there with the 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so 3 parts of our shirt are now fully attached. And like I said before, I really like to top stitch my seams down on things. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to top stitch my sleeves, the seam for my sleeves down, so that the seam is going towards the sleeve. And I'm just going to top stitch right along all 3 of those at the seams that I have done right now. Okay, so there's my little spider again, making sure that my stitches will start right when I start sewing on my fabric. It's a really handy thing, just a scrap piece of fabric, but I wanted to explain what I'm doing here a little bit more because I could stop and start and stop and start, but instead what I do is I just kind of turn my fabric around so that I'm continuously sewing my cover stitch, my top stitching, sorry. So instead of like stopping and starting and restarting, I'm just kind of I'm just maneuvering my fabric around so that it's all going on like one continuous thing. And then, yeah, as I go, I kind of clip it out so that it doesn't get too tangled up. But just, it's another little trick that I like. It helps me go faster, I guess I would say. All right, top stitched and ready to finally close up this shirt, adding the other side of the back to the other sleeve. We're just going to, again, fold everything so that it's right sides together, lining up those sleeve curves, and then just pin and clip. Yeah, make sure those raw edges are really nice and aligned because you don't want them to be wonky. go ahead and pin and clip it, and then we're going to do a 3/8 inch seam allowance just going down that. Okay, everything is fully attached other than our neckband, and look how cute this is turning out. I absolutely love this Bloop Kitty. Again, just like we did with the other side, we're just going to top stitch that other seam. Okay, everything is now prepped, top stitched, ready to go. Now we just need to sew the shirt up, right? We just need to sew those sides up and then attach the neckband and then hem. Super simple, super easy. We're almost done. All right, so what we're gonna do is just fold our fabric, our shirt again, right sides together, and then line up the raw edges of one of the sides, starting at the sleeve. And then I like to make sure too that my the shoulder, the sleeves, the seams line up, and then just pin it all the way down, pin or clip all the way down to get a nice straight angle there to get it all pinned. Now, when I sew this, because it's got this dip in it, this kind of V, what I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate my fabric when I get to that point so that I'm sewing a straight line. I'm not going to pull it, I'm not going to stretch it, I'm just going to manipulate it, like just fold, like just kind of lightly bring it over so that it's a nice straight line when I sew it. One side closed and one to go. So same thing as the other side, just right sides, making sure everything's right sides together, lining everything up, starting with the corner of your sleeve, and then where the two seams are, making sure those are lined up, and then just pinning the rest of the way down. Yeah, it's pretty easy. If you did color blocking for your back, it's also a good time to kind of check to make sure that those seams are lined up. That way they join nicely. And then just like the front too, we're going to do the same thing, just 3/8 inch seam allowance all the way around. And then when we get to that little corner, we're going to just manipulate our fabric so it ends up being more straight when we sew. Okay, we're so close to being done. All of our side seams are together. Everything's done. Now we just have to add our neckband and hem. So I'm going to turn this right sides out so you can see how cute it is. I just love, this is my favorite moment when you get to see it kind of start to put together. Now though, we need to prep our neckband and get it ready. So what I'm going to do before I work on my neckband is I'm going to quarter my neck opening. So I'm going to take those two seams for my sleeves and match them up. So I'm going to fold my fabric in half, match it up, and then the point when it's folded in half, the point in the back is going to be one of our quarter points, and then the point in the front is going to be our other quarter point. So we're going to quarter this neckband. All right. Now what we're going to do is we are going to open that up and match those two quarter points that we just did. And so yeah, just make sure those are matched up, aligned, and then we are then again where it's folded, that's going to be our side quarter point, and then where it's folded on the other side, that is going to be our fourth quarter point. Sorry. So now that we have our neckline all quartered, this is a super, super important part of this process. I really recommend not skipping quartering your neckband. You won't get a good neckband if you don't. All right, so now though we need to prep our neckband. We are going to fold it in half so that the two short ends are together. And then just make sure it's not, twisted or anything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half again. So as you can see, now I have two 2 folded ends, and then I have 4 4 raw edges. This is going to make it so that when I sew that together, my neckband is going to automatically stay folded in half. I don't have to worry about it kind of getting wonky or anything. All right, so now that we have that, we are going to go ahead and sew 3/8 inches along that short end. Okay, now that our neckband is all prepped, we're just going to open it up, and as you can see, using that that technique that I showed you, it just naturally stays folded, and I really like that because it makes it easier when I'm trying to quarter it and sew it on. It doesn't like to come apart or anything like that. Speaking of quartering, let's go ahead and start quartering our neckband. The seam that we sewed when we sewed the neckband together, that is going to be our first quarter point. And then we're going to go ahead and fold that down so that it's all the way to the bottom and our finger is directly opposite of it. That is going to be our second quarter point. So the seam is, I like to put the seam in the back, and that other quarter point now is going to be my front. Now I'm going to line those 2 quarter points together, and where my finger's at the top when it's folded, that is my third quarter point. And then again, just making sure they're aligned on the other end, that is going to be the fourth quarter point. Just like with the neck opening, quartering your neckband is super important. It's just going to make sure it's stretched evenly and it's just even on there. Do not skip this step when you're sewing clothing. Okay, so now that our neckband is quartered and our neck opening is quartered, we just need to match those quarter points together. Like I said earlier, I like to put that seam in the back of my neck opening. It's a better place to put it, I think, than in the front. And then that quarter points don't always line up with the seam on your shoulder. So that can look a little wonky too. So kind of hiding it in the back, I guess, that's what I prefer to do. And then just go around matching those quarter points up, making sure that your neckband doesn't twist or anything. Now what we're going to do is we are going to sew 3/8 inches around. And when we sew, we are going to stretch the neckband, but not the neck opening. And that's just going to help hold that together. Okay, it's really, really important here when you're sewing that you stretch the neckband if it needs to be stretched and not the neck opening. If you stretch the neck opening, it's just going to make everything so wonky. So really focus on making sure that your neck opening is nice and flat, and that if you have to stretch, you're just pulling on that neckband and not the t-shirt fabric or hoodie fabric. Okay, with our neckband attached now, it's super simple. All we have left to do is top stitch our neckband down if you want to. I do prefer to do it. And then we just need to hem the bottom and hem the sleeves. So when I top stitch my neck down, I like to make sure my seam is down, pointing towards the shirt and not up towards the neckband. And then when we hem the sleeves, just fold your sleeves in 1/2 inch. I just wing this, but you can totally measure it. And then with the bottom, fold it up 1 inch. Again, I just wing it. You can measure it if you want to, but you don't have to. All right, so we're just going to top stitch around the neck opening here. And then, we're going to do the same. We're going to go through and do the sleeves as well. Because I'm top stitching in the round, I didn't start with a spider. I just started right on my fabric. And then another thing that I wanted to point out, especially when you're top stitching in the round, is when you get to that point where you started, go past that about 2 inches, and that's just going to help lock those stitches in. And then again, when you pull your fabric, the threads to the back of your fabric, that again is going to help lock it in. So yeah, just make sure that you always, when you're top stitching in the round, whether you're using a cover stitch machine or a regular sewing machine, that you just go over that where you started a couple of inches. I like to do, about 2 inches. You can do more, you can do less, but it just helps lock those stitches in. All right, and then we're gonna cover stitch or top stitch. I believe this is one of the sleeves, and then do the other sleeve and the bottom, and we will be done with our Boo and Lu Tamarack. I'm so excited. I love this fabric so much, y'all. This is so cute. All right. Here it is. I absolutely love the color blocking on this. It's great for panels, looks awesome. But yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.